Hi everyone, and welcome to ABG Investor Days. My name is Nikola Kalanowski, and I'm an equity research analyst here at ABG. With us today, we have Patrik Höjer, CEO of Precise Biometrics. He will present Precise Biometrics to us, and then we will have an opportunity for a brief Q&A. And with those words, I leave the floor to you, Patrik.
Thank you, Nikolai. Thank you so much, and thanks everyone for coming and listening. Yes, my name is Patrik Höjer. I started as CEO for Precise in June last year. So I've been here 7-8 months. I got a background from payment business historically in a PE-backed company called Nets, and before that in the telco industry. And I think looking at sort of what combines my career historically is that I've been in environments where we've been on a journey. And I think that's exactly where Precise is right now. And I will come back to and explain why that is so clear to me. So I'm really happy now to sort of give you a brief walkthrough of Precise, what it is today. And I think if you haven't listened in to Precise for a couple of years, you will see that we are quite a different company today compared to what we were just a few years ago. So starting then with Precise. Precise is a software company. We're not producing hardware compared to maybe some of the peer biometric companies in the Nordics. And that's a quite big difference, right? We have, during 25 years, been able to build up a very, very strong competence in biometrics. And biometrics is basically about advanced image analysis. You're comparing one image to another, and you need to do with a very, very high security, secure these pictures matches. And you need to do that in a low latency, in an environment where the processors that you use doing this on might be small, or the security demands might be very, very high. So this is a very, very complex environment. And we have today an organization with approximately 60-65 people, and with most of the people in Lund, where we have our R&D office. But we also have a few people internationally, very close to our customers, because we are already today providing services to some of the biggest mobile telephone companies today. We are today in approximately 10% of the mobile phones with our software. It means that we're doing more than 10,000 fingerprint verifications every minute with our software worldwide, which is kind of cool. Looking at the financials, we have, despite a quite tough macroeconomic situation for consumer electronics right now, been able to grow in 2022 to 91 million, approximately 9% versus the year before. We had a positive EBITDA, and cash flow from operating activities was also positive last year. The other thing we're very proud of is the new area, which we call digital identity. And that's an area where we have been building up something we call annual RR, a customer stock, which is generating cash flow, like a telco company, for example. We're building that up, and we have increased it with over 25% last year to 60 million kronor, which is a stable underlying revenue, which is growing. And we're today listed on the small cap at Nasdaq. So let's jump into the different areas then, and starting at looking at the company, how we're organized. Today, we're very clearly organized into two different business units. The Algo business unit, which we see to the left, that's where we're doing sort of the fingerprint algorithms, the historical part of Precise, where we also built up some really strong world-leading knowledge. We're supporting mobile phones, but also laptops, door locks, and so on in this area. On the right side, you see the business unit Digital Identity. Here we have two complete software systems that we're supporting the market with. One, which we call Precise Unique. Precise Unique is a physical access solution based on facial recognition, meaning that you can get entrance to a facility via your face. And the other part is EastCoast Visit, a company we bought in 2021. It's the market leader in visitor management solutions, taking care of temporary visitors for big companies or for small companies as well, that needs to have a digitalized solution to secure who is actually moving around in their facilities. Yes, so let's jump into the Algo business to start with then. If we look If we look at the precise, sort of the biomatch part, as we call it, this is basically, which is also something we should be proud of today. This is also a end-to-end solution, software-wise, when it comes to fingerprint recognition. It means that we are today doing the ISP, which is the image sensor processing, the sort of the first image signal processing, which is the first part where you get the raw data. We're doing the biomatch, which is basically matching two pictures, and the anti-spoof, which is basically securing that it's not a spoof material, it's not a dead person or a fake material, whatever. So you have the full sort of solution. Comparing that back to a few years ago, we were only doing the biomatch. But now we're coming in with the full suite, which is helping us creating stickiness and a broader solution to our customers. And as you can see, we're doing this in quite many different use cases already today. The biggest one, which I mentioned, is the mobile vertical. Today we have partnerships with some of the biggest sensor manufacturers in the world, like Qualcomm, Infineon, Edge's Technology, and so on and so forth. We've also worked with strong focus to move into new verticals, new embedded verticals, like door locks and automotives and so on, and been able to sign up quite a few customers there as well, 20 customers plus in this field. The revenue model here is based on two things. One is an annual license fee, meaning that you get a sort of a recurring revenue from it, like a base fee from the customers every year. This means that we can also support smaller customers which might not have so much sales yet, but we get our revenue anyway. And then we have royalties, which is a variable fee. So when they win projects, when they sell the sensors, including our software, we get a variable fee as well as an income. This business has a positive underlying cash flow, and it stands for 74% of our revenue today in 2022. And why is this so interesting then? Yeah, I think it's interesting due to the underlying market trend. One thing is the mobile segment, which we are supporting today. You can divide the market today into three different sensor types. If you look at your mobile, you have capacitive sensor, which is basically where you can see the sensor where you're pushing your fingerprint in some mobile phones. Then you have sensors which is hidden under the display. They're based on optical sensors or ultrasound sensors. And we are primarily active in the two latter ones, the under display sensors, which is the more complex algorithms, the more complex software, and where is less price erosion as well in the market. It's also predicted that this part of the market will grow and eat on the capacitive sensor side during the coming years. So that's a good position to be in. We can also see that quite a few, like in the Android field, are going back more to fingerprints. Sometimes in combination with facials, but for sure having fingerprints as a strong way of authenticating yourself. And then looking at the other embedded verticals, looking at laptop, for example, there's a clear bio drive in this area as well. We know that there are coming requirements from Windows Hello, for example, that you need to match on chip. You should match your fingerprint before you turn on the computer for an enterprise, for example. With that, there's much higher security than having sort of a facial recognition or something similar where the main CPU has already started, because then you can hack it. When you look at door lock, that has mainly been a sort of Chinese thing historically, with the biggest market there. We can see that growing internationally as well, expanding and having a quite strong growth the coming year. Automotive is another thing. I think that's a very interesting vertical as well if you compare it to where mobile started. A few years ago, when fingerprints or biometric was introduced to the mobile area, it was about convenience, right? I mean, it was much easier to use your fingerprint or face rather than the PIN code or whatever. We can see the same in the automotive space. In this area, that we first talk about maybe convenience. I mean, adjust how you sitting and making sure that your kids couldn't drive more than 110 kilometers per hour. But now they're also talking about in-car payments for charging or for tolls or software updates and so on. And we can see that some of the bigger car manufacturers are forming sort of financial institutions to secure this. And that will change also the use cases and importance of this in the future, where fingerprint is a very strong use case part with where you have clear intent of paying, right, versus face or palm or something else. Nikolai, I don't have track on the time. Can I see that somewhere?
Yeah, I think you have a clock to the right-hand side of the computer behind the...
Thank you. So jumping from Algo, the Form 1, into the new area, the digital identity area. This is our physical access based on facial recognition, a solution, a system solution we have been developing during the last 3 years. We are now in a phase where this system is finalized, and it's more about commercializing and taking it out to the market, securing the right sales channels. And it's a very easy onboarding and user experience with this one as well. It's basically about if you want to invite someone, an employee or a visitor, then you send out a email link to this person. That person can take a selfie with their mobile phone. That selfie is sent back to the server, and then when you approach the camera, the door opens by matching these two pictures directly. We have today been focusing quite much on Sweden. Now more and more focus is on US due to the fact that this market is much more biometric mature and it's much larger. I will come back to that a little bit later. We have also during the last years been working heavily on integrating technically our solutions with system integrators and access systems in markets. We have today integration with the big ones like RCO or Integra or Genetec in US, some of the biggest access system, which is fundamental to make this happen. Here we have a revenue model, which is called which is basically software as service, the recurring revenue model, as I talked about before, like a telco company. Why is this interesting? I think this is very interesting due to the fact that there is a clear biometric drive versus in the physical access area. You can see that Asia, you can see that in US, and we here in the forefront with a strong solution in the market. We can see in independent service that there is expected big growth in the smart locks area, in the biometric area, and North America, where we're now focusing in, is one of the biggest markets in the world, which is also creating us a huge market potential. This is also only sort of just started, right? 6% of our revenue today. So great potential as we see it. Then jumping forward to the visitor management solution. This is a market-leading solution in the Swedish market. We have maybe 25% market share already today with the EastCoast solution. It is a fully digitalized solution. It's a cloud-based solution, so it's very scalable and ready for international launch. We have today many customers, I mean a broad base of customers, of course, with the market share we have. Strong partnership with some of the biggest players in the market as well, giving us leads and so on in this area. We have a strong installed base and also a revenue model based as at annual recurring revenue, a SaaS model as a telco. This business also has a positive underlying cash flow. And we bought this business in 2021. We can see that this is helping us to take out the unique solution, the physical access solution to the market by using this sales force as well to the market. And combining these two is a super strong solution together. Why is this interesting? It's interesting because we can see a clear drive versus this area after the pandemic. People are moving back to the offices. There is a demand of higher security. You need to keep track who's in your facilities. You need a strong digitalized solution in this sense, which we can provide to the customers. There's also expected growth in the market for visitor management in the worldwide, but especially also in US, where we also looking into the market launch of this product through partnership. Good. Looking then at sort of the vision and the financials going forward for Precise, we have a clear vision and growth agenda for our two business areas. If we start with the Algo area, it's very much about focusing on strategic partnership. We have, if you go back a few years, the fingerprint area was like Klondike. It was a lot of small sensor manufacturers that wanted to start up their business. Many of them didn't really succeed. There's been a few players that's been really successful in the market, like Tech or Qualcomm and so on. These partnerships we do hold, and together with them we win strong partnerships in the mobile area. So it's been a consolidation of that market where we have positioned us quite well. In the other part we're talking about for the growth is to go into more embedded verticals like automotive and laptops and so on. Finding strong partnership like Infineon or Canvas Bios in Korea and so on to secure our solutions there. And also looking into new partnerships, new sensor manufacturers. There's a French company called iSorg who has a new technique that might change a little bit the dynamics in the market with bigger displays, bigger sensors in the screens that can create new user cases and so on on a cheaper level. And we have been well positioned there, and they choose to work with us as well. And then beyond that, we can see that we are today focusing on maybe the most complex part of advanced image analysis, fingerprints in a very high security environment. And we can see that this knowledge can be used in other areas as well, in DVS sensor, which is event cameras and so on. And we're exploring if we can find good user cases there, potentially maybe together with Tech or some other hardware sensor manufacturer. So our vision here is to be a software powerhouse when it comes to licensing our algorithms in this area. And I think we have strong proof point that we have this leading competence. In the digital identity area, it's about partnership with access management companies to bring out the unique solution, which is now sort of in a commercialized phase. We also talked about bringing this into the US market, which we are focusing on. We had a strong deal here with a Genetech, or a partnership with Genetech, which is a leading North American access management company, which is giving us a sales channel into the US market. And then we are exploring if we should white label the product to enter new markets through partnership as well. We believe that we can find a leading position when it comes to people flow management. Then looking at sort of the financials, what we could see in the second half of 2022 is that the market had a sort of oversupply when it came to sensors. In the beginning of 2022, many of the OEMs asked their sensor and module house to produce a lot of sensors because they thought that the market would kick off. So they bought up a lot of stocks. Then in second half, we could see that the macroeconomic hit the market, so the end customer demand declined a bit. So there was a combination in H2 of oversupply and lower end customer demand, which is not healthy for the ecosystem behind the OEMs, the big mobile phone manufacturers. We could see that our variable revenues declined quite substantially, not because we lost any partnership, right, but because of the oversupply in the market. That we predict, we look at rate, they predict in the market that this will slowly normalize in the second half of 2023, which means that royalty revenues is expected to come back again. The other part, which I talked about before, is the digital identity area, where we can see that we increased in the recurring revenue, which is important and a proof point of building up stable, strong underlying revenues. We had a positive operating cash flow during the year as well. We could see that we were growing 9%, as I said before, between 2021 and 2022. What we also done now, due to the macroeconomic situation, is that we've done some OpEx optimization. We are declining the cost with approximately 10 million SEK in 2023. This is mainly done due to the fact that we're now into a commercialization phase rather than a R&D expense phase in the unique area. But we also saw synergies when we integrated EastCoast, the acquisition we did in 2021, with the Precise organization. Looking at commercial opportunities, as stated, right, we are expanding into embedded segments with new partners. We see the digital identity area where we see a strong growth in 2022, plus 25%. And we also expect, we also have we see good proof point when it comes to the US launch with the Genetic solution, for example, Genetic partnership, for example. But we also won our first customers, hospital chain in New York State, end of last year, which is a strong user case and proof point of our capabilities in the market already. Good. To summarize then, why should you keep track on Precise going forward? I think this 6 bullets sort of summarize that in a fairly good way. We have a proven world-leading biometric expertise, where it's now much about commercializing our strong software solutions. And I think we can also see that in the revenue we have and in the partnership we have. We are hardware agnostic, which means that we can use our algorithms or software in the embedded space, in the mobile space, and so on, which is fairly unique. And that can then help us to expand into embedded verticals and so on, which I talked about before, like laptops, cars, and so on. We have 3 leading software solutions which have commercial potential. And we have started to diversify our business model. I mean, already today, more than 20% of the revenue comes from our new area, and which is also showing strength and stability. And then we have put strong commercial potential in the US market with a business model where we're building up recurring revenues. And I think we have a very strong, clear vision also where we are heading, and have strong proof point on that we are leading in the different areas where we are working in when it comes to licensing algorithms and providing strong solutions to people flow management. Good. I was a little bit unclear about the time, so I'm not really sure how many minutes I used.
No, of course, we have a few minutes left for a Q&A. But
Perfect.
Thank you very much for the presentation. And let's just kick into the Q&A. So I'd like to start with, you explained in the Q4 report that you have focused on expanding the business through partnerships. Could you just dive into a little bit, what are the benefits for Precise in this case, and what is the rationale behind the partnerships?
Yeah, so looking at the 2 different business areas, business units, if we look at the Algo business unit, as I stated before, we could see that the market, when it comes to fingerprint sensors, has consolidated during the last couple of years. So we can see that a few players right now are clear winners in the market, like EdgeTech, like Qualcomm, and so on, which are important customers to us, partnerships to us. So of course, together with them, I mean, they need the full solution, the hardware and the software. Those combined makes us win projects. So I think those partnerships is really strong proof point for us, and also a way to generate more royalties in the future and win more projects in the future. And we have seen during 2022 quite tremendous improvements of our software as well, which is further sort of strengthening our position. We're using more AI technique and so on to train these algos and so on, to make them much stronger, and quite dramatic movements when it comes to quality in them. So that's why they are so important in the algo space, in the algo fingerprint space. In the digital identity space, it's about we see our solutions as complements to the access management companies, and we also want to use them as sales channels. So having strong partnership, I mean, we have technical integration, as I said, and commercial discussions with all the big access systems in Sweden, for example. They are crucial for us to roll out our services into the market. Yeah, and if we go into the algo segment, perhaps the royalty revenues there, as you mentioned, declined because of an overstocked OEM, or a bunch of overstocked OEMs in this case. How should an investor view this case, and what sort of mechanisms could lead to a destocking of inventories at the OEMs? Yeah. I mean, when it comes to the destocking part, I mean, that, as I said before, there was sort of in the second half of 22, there was a double sort of effect in the market. You had the overstock and a little bit lower customer demand. And the lower customer demand was maybe only down 10-15%, but due to the fact of the oversupply, the royalties were down like 70%. because they took from the stocks instead of buying new sensors, right? And of course, they have been during the second half of this year been eating of this stock, right? And they continue doing that. So as that problem is slowly fading away, which means that the royalties will return. Then the discussion is okay. So that's one part, and that will gradually go away, right? But then, especially as new models are coming, new phone models and so on. I mean, I think everyone expects to continue using mobile phones and buy new mobile phones, right? So that will take us back just because of that. But then another part, I mean, where does when does the market pick up again, sort of to normal levels? I think just due to the oversupply will pick up tremendously. But then right now, I think many talk about more normalized levels in the second half of 2023 when it comes to the end customer demand.
I'm afraid that we're out of time there, but thank you very much, Patrik, for your presentation and for the Q&A. And to everybody listening, thank you all.
Thank you.